There's a version of you that never existed. Not because you weren't capable. Not because the world didn't give you a shot. But because somewhere along the way, you got comfortable. And comfort, my friend, is the quietest killer there is. You didn't even feel it happen. That's the scary part. One day you were hungry, driven, staying up late with ideas burning a hole in your chest, and then slowly, almost invisibly, you traded that fire for a routine, a predictable paycheck, a couch, a Netflix queue. And now you're watching other people live the life you used to dream about, wondering how the gap got so wide. This video is going to change how you see your life. Not in a hype, you up for 20 minutes, then forget about it kind of way. I mean the kind of change that sticks. The kind that makes you look back at this moment and say, that was the turning point. Because what I'm about to walk you through isn't theory. It's pattern. A pattern that plays out across millions of lives, including some of the most cautious, responsible, well, meaning people who ever lived. People who did everything right, and still ended up feeling completely wrong inside. If that hits close to home, stick around. And if this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button and tap the bell. I put out content like this every single week. Stories that make you think, that shake you awake, that challenge the assumptions you didn't even know you were carrying. You don't want to miss what's coming. All right, let's get into it. Picture a guy. We'll call him Marcus, 27 years old, smart, likable, works a steady job at a mid-size marketing company. Good salary. Not amazing, but good. He's got a one-bedroom apartment in a decent part of the city. He drives a car he likes. He eats out on weekends. He has friends he texts but doesn't really see anymore. And every single Sunday night, right around 7 p.m., a feeling creeps in. Not quite sadness. Not quite anxiety. Something else. A hollow kind of dread. Like he's standing at the edge of something he can't name. Marcus tells himself he's just tired. That he needs a vacation. That things will feel different when he gets that promotion. When he finally has more time. When life slows down a little. He keeps waiting for some future version of his life to feel meaningful. But here's what Marcus doesn't realize yet. The feeling isn't a signal that something's wrong with him. It's a signal that something's wrong with his choices. And ignoring that signal is going to cost him more than he knows. Here's the thing about comfort. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't show up in a trench coat and say, "Hey, I'm here to steal your potential." It shows up as relief, as peace, as finally catching your breath after a hard stretch. It shows up as settling in. And settling in feels good, at first. It's supposed to. That's the trap. Human beings are wired to seek safety. It's ancient. It's biological. When your ancestors were dodging predators on the open savanna, the brain that rewarded stillness and routine was the brain that survived. The brain that said, "This spot is safe, stay here, don't take unnecessary risks," kept your bloodline going. That instinct didn't disappear. It just got rewired. And now instead of avoiding lions, it's avoiding difficult conversations. Instead of protecting shelter, it's protecting a job that's slowly draining your soul. The survival mechanism that once kept humans alive is now keeping millions of people small. And here's where it gets really interesting. Because comfort doesn't just make you stagnant, it actually shrinks you. There's a psychological principle called the law of diminishing stimulation. And what it basically means is that the more comfortable you are, the less you're able to tolerate discomfort. Every time you avoid a hard thing, that thing gets harder. Every time you choose the safe option, the risky option feels more terrifying. Your comfort zone isn't staying the same size while you sit inside it. It's getting smaller. You are slowly, incrementally, with every cozy and avoidant decision, boxing yourself in. Think about the last time you did something genuinely scary. Not watch a horror movie scary. Actually scary. A difficult conversation you needed to have. A business idea you considered pursuing. A workout you almost started. A creative project you kept pushing back. Now think about how it felt to not do it. For about 5 minutes, there was relief. And then that relief quietly turned into something else. A low hum of regret. A nagging awareness that you let yourself down again. Most people live in that hum. They don't even notice it anymore. It's just the background noise of a safe life. Back to Marcus. About a year after that hollow Sunday night feeling started, Marcus gets a LinkedIn message from a former college classmate. Let's call her Priya. They weren't close, but they were friendly. Priya's message is short. She's starting a company. She needs someone with marketing experience. She wants to know if Marcus would be interested in joining early, equity included. No guaranteed salary for the first 6 months. Marcus reads the message 3 times. His heart jumps, not just a little. Full send, adrenaline spike, can't stop, thinking about it, kind of jumping. He drafts a reply that says yes. He reads it again. He thinks about his rent, his car payment, his comfortable routine. He thinks about what happens if it fails. He closes the laptop. He tells himself he'll think about it more tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes a week becomes 2. He sends Priya a polite message saying he's flattered, but it's not the right time. Priya responds with grace, says she totally understands, and wishes him well. Marcus feels relief. He goes back to his routine. He goes back to his Sunday dread. And he doesn't think about it again. Not consciously, anyway. Here's the part that nobody tells you about that kind of decision. It's not just one decision. Every time you say no to the thing that scares you, you are reinforcing a story you're telling yourself about who you are. You are building a narrative. And narratives are powerful. Narratives become identity. And once something becomes identity, changing it feels like dying. Marcus didn't just say no to a job opportunity. He said no to a version of himself. He said no to the part of him that was still hungry, still capable, still willing to risk something for something real. And over time, that version of him gets quieter. It doesn't disappear. That's the cruel part. It doesn't disappear. It just gets buried under layers of justification, under reasonable explanations, under bills and routines and the comfortable lie that one day, when the timing is better, when things line up just right, he'll take the leap. Spoiler. The timing never gets better. The leap never gets easier. The life you're waiting for doesn't start when conditions are perfect. It starts when you decide that living small is more painful than the fear of living big. Now I want to tell you about a different kind of story. And this one's real. In the 1950s, a psychologist named Solomon Asch ran a series of experiments on social conformity. He put people in a room with actors and asked them to compare the lengths of lines on a card. Simple test, obvious answers. But here's what happened. When the actors all confidently gave the wrong answer, the real subjects caved. Over 75% of them agreed with the wrong answer at least once, even though they could clearly see it was wrong. Not because they were stupid, because the social pressure of conformity overrode their own perception of reality. Now think about what that means for your life. You are surrounded by people who have accepted comfort as the default, who have decided that average is okay, who have quietly given up on the bigger version of themselves and called it maturity. And every single day, you are in that room. And the pressure to agree with the wrong answer, to accept the comfortable lie, is relentless. Not because anyone is trying to hurt you, but because people protect their own choices by surrounding themselves with people who validate those choices. Misery loves company, but so does mediocrity. The question is, are you going to be the one who looks at the card and tells the truth? Marcus is 31 now. 4 years since the Priya message. His company's been bought by a bigger firm, and she's now running a division. He saw it on LinkedIn. He clicked on her profile. He looked at the photo of her team, the caption about their Series B funding, the comments full of congratulations. And he felt something he hadn't expected to feel. Not jealousy exactly. Something quieter. Something that felt a lot like grief. And that's the moment Marcus finally understood what he'd been doing all along. He hadn't been choosing comfort. He'd been choosing the illusion of safety. Because here's the truth that nobody wants to say out loud. There is no safe path. There is no risk-free route. The job that felt stable. Companies fold. The relationship you stayed in because leaving felt scary. It ended anyway. The routine you built your identity around, life disrupts it without asking. Safety is a story you tell yourself to justify staying small, and the longer you believe it, the more it costs you. Risk is not the opposite of security. Stagnation is. The person who takes the leap, who builds the thing, who has the hard conversation, who shows up even when it's terrifying, that person is building real resilience, real capability, real security. Not the fake kind that lives in a routine and dies the moment circumstances change. The real kind that lives in you and moves with you no matter what happens. Here is the thing about growth that nobody wants to hear. It hurts. Not metaphorically. Not in a self-help way, vague kind of way. Genuinely, physically, psychologically uncomfortable. Your nervous system treats new challenges like threats. Your brain resists unfamiliar territory. Every time you try to step outside what's known and safe, your biology is going to push back hard. It's going to tell you to wait, to be careful, to think about it more, to do it tomorrow. That resistance is not wisdom, it's wiring. And you can override it. But only if you know it's happening. The most successful people in the world are not people who felt no fear. They're people who learn to feel the fear and act anyway. Not because they're braver than you, but because they understand something most people never figure out. Comfort is not the reward for a life well lived. It's a symptom of a life not fully attempted. So what do you do with this? Because I don't want this to be a video that just makes you feel bad about your choices. That's not the point. The point is awareness. The point is clarity. Because once you can see the trap, you have a real shot at stepping out of it. Start small, but start real. Pick one thing you've been avoiding. One conversation. One application. One decision. Not the biggest, scariest thing in your life. Just one real thing that you've been pushing back because it doesn't feel like the right time. Do it this week. Not because it guarantees success, but because the act of doing it rewrites the story you've been telling yourself. It proves to your nervous system that you are capable of more than your habits suggest. Then do another one. And another. And slowly, the voice that says, wait, gets quieter. And the version of you that was always there, always capable, always ready, gets louder. That's not motivational poster stuff. That's the actual science of habit formation and neurological rewiring. Your brain changes based on what you do. Not what you think, not what you plan, what you actually do. Marcus figures this out at 32. It starts small. He takes an online course he'd been bookmarking for 3 years. He starts sending out work on a freelance basis. Scary stuff, vulnerable stuff, stuff with real risk of failure. And some of it does fail. He gets rejection, he makes mistakes. But something else happens too. That Sunday night hollow feeling starts to fade. Not because his life is suddenly perfect, but because he's moving again. Because he's trying again. Because the version of himself he buried under 4 years of comfort is starting to breathe again. The life you want is not on the other side of perfect conditions. It is on the other side of the uncomfortable decision you keep not making. And I know that sounds simple. It is simple. It's just not easy. There's a difference. Simple means the path is clear. Easy means it doesn't cost you anything. And real growth always costs you something. It costs you the comfort of staying the same. Here's the last thing I want to leave you with today. You are not going to be young forever. And I don't mean that to be dark. I mean it to be honest. The window you have right now, this moment, these years, they are not infinite. Every day you spend in a comfort zone holding pattern is a day you don't get back. The regrets you accumulate in your 40s and 50s and beyond are almost never, I wish I'd played it safer. They are almost always some version of, I wish I had tried. You know what's actually terrifying? Not failure, not rejection, not the hard conversation or the risky leap or the vulnerable creative project. What's actually terrifying is sitting at the end of a long, safe, comfortable life and knowing, in your bones, that you had more in you. That there was a bigger version of yourself that never got to exist because you were afraid of what people might think. Because the timing never felt right. Because comfort kept whispering that this was enough. It's not enough. You know it's not enough. That's why you're here watching this video. So here's my question for you. And I want you to actually think about this and drop it in the comments below. What is the one thing you've been putting off that you know, if you actually did it, would change your life? Not a vague answer. Be specific. What is the actual thing? Write it down in the comments. Say it out loud to yourself and then say it to us. Because there's power in naming it. There's power in committing to it publicly. And there's a community right here, in the comments section of this video, of people who are trying to figure out the same thing you are. Send this video to someone who needs to hear it. You know exactly who it is. You thought of their face somewhere in the middle of this. Send it to them. Not with a lecture. Just with a message that says, thought of you. Let the video do the rest. That's how real change spreads. Not through pressure. Through resonance. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it right now. Not for me, for future you. The version of you that keeps showing up, keeps learning, keeps choosing growth over comfort. That version of you deserves a channel in their corner. Hit subscribe, tap the bell, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay hungry.